Welcome along to the Soda Room.
It's that spine-tingling moment where you're actually numb.
It was like we had won the grand final.
Still, for me, that is the most incredible experience of my life.
You got the same undies on.
I've got exactly the same ones on.
On today's show, Phil SMYTH, Australian basketball icon turned brilliant coach whisperer.
I am super excited because I have the General with me. Phil SMYTH, the General, one of the greatest basketballers we've ever produced. And now, SMYTH, this is why I love you here, is because you are the coach whisperer. How are you, mate?
Really good, Sodas. And you know, mate, the only reason I'm doing this is because you're a mate. Otherwise, you know I don't like doing too much of this stuff.
And I do know that, right?
Yeah.
I know that you are behind-the-scenes sort of man, but I really appreciate it. But, Phil, and for everyone that is listening, what you're doing now, I reckon, is so fascinating for people to understand. I reckon that we've got to do this. So I hope you don't mind opening up and telling us where things are at and where they're going, because at 67 years young, mate, you're still flying. You're not playing golf sitting in a retirement village. Not that you should be, because you don't even look like you should be, but it's an interesting time, isn't it, your age? And you're working a lot with Chris Fagan, who's 64.
Yep.
So you'd like to old men, but I mean that with absolute respect
Like
and
those
kindness.
two old blokes that sat on the balcony, mate.
the Muppets.
In the Muppets?
Yeah,
we're a bit
yeah,
like
yeah.
those two blokes.
Stadler and Waldorf, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
there
You're
we
like-
go. Yeah, pretty
But
similar.
It's brilliant because at 67 years young, not 67 years old, you're doing such fantastic things. You must be feeling really good about life at the moment.
Yeah,
Would that be
life's
fair?
great. Oh, yeah, no, that's a fair comment, mate. No, life's great. And obviously, the people you're around are obviously they're all younger, mate. They're all athletes. There's lots of energy, so you feed off the energy. And then the people that are around the club and Fags particularly, very energised people, so you can feed off that. So it keeps you young. There's no question.
Well, you're running around talking with, guys who are about to be drafted.
Yep.
You know, in the next couple of weeks, there'll be 17, 18-year-old guys. And clearly, you know, as a dad and you've got grown-up kids, it must be a fascinating dynamic.
It's a really interesting one because you can reflect back to when you went through something similar when you were going to start travelling and start to get involved with stuff. And as we get older, mate, we've all got some wisdom that we've gained along the way. We've all made some mistakes that you try and learn from. And I think we're constantly learning. And it's you know, we hear that word fluid a lot. It does. It's changed. It's changed from when I played to when football has started to where it is now. I mean, we've got million-dollar players in basketball, multi-million-dollar players in the AFL. So managers, money, crowds, everything's bigger. There's more of it, and the expectation is up, and there's more scrutiny.
Right. We're going to get into a lot of that, but I just want to wind the clock back a little bit first of all. Right. The General. I love the name, The General, and I think everyone that ever watched, remember as a kid watching you play and you'd be coming down the court, dribbling, you got the finger pointing here, you're controlling everything beautifully. Where did the General come from? Who came up with a nickname?
There's a fellow called Phil Lynch when I first went to Canberra to play, and it was his and all the games in Canberra then were televised. So every game was on TV. And in his second game, he goes, "Oh, there's Phil SMYTH organising the troops like a general." And it just, I had a lot of other nicknames as well, but that was a nicer one than some of the other blokes used to call me. And so it stuck from there. But there was a part of it, and a lot of people have asked the question, why finger pointing? Why? And I kind of had that brain, I think, where I could see plays unfolding before they happened, and I'd be doing them in my mind. I just had that analytical mind, so it was easy to go, okay, Sodas is playing really well at the moment. I'll get him over there so I know he gets the next shot. So just kind of grew from there.
Where did that come from? You reckon?
I think I always wanted to coach. Even in my early days, I used to keep a lot of notes about teams we played against, the patterns, the style of game they played, and players obviously that I'd defend. So I was maybe ahead of my time a little bit, but I always thought eventually, and I loved the game. I loved the movement of players and where they might play best.
Were you a good student as a kid? Because I'm
At
thinking
school
back,
student?
Yeah, because you know that analytical mind, was that something, or were you just busy just playing basketball the whole time?
If it was something I liked, if I had a teacher that I thought was a really good teacher, I'd get right into it. And if I had a teacher that I thought he didn't care, so why would I care? So if there were subjects that I liked, and for some reason maths was something that I was really good at without having to study or work hard. I wasn't a studier. You know, I was too busy out on the basketball court, too busy running around and, you know, looking out the window while the class was going on. So I wasn't one of those attentive students, but smart enough to get through.
Just with that, with school, everyone has one teacher that jumped out. Was there one? Or was there a couple that, you know, really had that influence?
There was a teacher called Kathy Duthie, and she was a really good teacher. I really liked her, really enjoyed. And it's funny if you said what subject did she teach. I probably can't remember the subject, but I can remember that she had a lot of energy and she was passionate about it. And so that engaged me. I think early days, if someone's really passionate about what they do and genuinely care about what they do, that drew me in. So, which is then, I think that was part of my philosophy as a player and as a coach, is generally care about that.
Why basketball as a young pup?
That was footy for me, actually. Funny enough, well, footy and basketball. So I'd made the state team. It might have been about under 16s. We'd gone to Perth and I'd made the under 16 basketball team, which went to Melbourne. Then it came, luckily back then you could do both. I mean, there's a time when you have to make the choice. Now it's different. They get them much younger now, which I don't know is a good thing. Anyway, I had to make the choice between footy or basketball. And footy was probably my first love, but there were 3 or 4 of my mates that were sort of in similar boats. And the guy that coached the footy team the next year was one of those guys that just abused his players, yelled and screamed.
This is for your club team?
Yes.
And who was that as a kid?
I can't remember his name.
No, the
as
club.
a kid. Oh, no, well, I was zoned South Adelaide. So Edwardstown was my local footy club, but I was zoned with South, and then the school footy was the big thing. Yep. And then we decided, look, we'll take a year off and go and play basketball, because the guy that coached the basketball was quiet, really articulate, skill-based. So we gravitated towards him, and then obviously my career accelerated and never went back to footy.
Describe Phil SMYTH as a footballer. If you were a scout and you were watching, what did you see?
Yeah, that's a good question, mate. Centre-half forward, quick, had good skills. Because again, I was always a believer in if your skills. So I was one of those kids that would just practice on my own or with friends, and all the time. So decent skills. I would have been okay. Yeah, would have been okay.
Obviously, unbelievable superstar, one of the all-time greats for basketball. Would have you, and this isn't, you're a very humble man, but you reckon you would have made it in football if the basketball year off?
Oh, wow.
Do you reckon you would have?
It's a really good question, so it's a tough one to answer. I mean, there's a party that wants to go, oh, yeah, I would have been a superstar. I would have been.
We know skill-wise, athletic-wise, because you're world-class, right? Yep. So you can transfer a lot of that.
Yep.
But, yeah, do you think, as an athlete, no doubt.
Oh, sometimes I look at some of the guys that are like a Pendlebury that's gone from basketball to footy. So you go, and I'm not suggesting for a moment that I'd be anywhere near as good as Pendles, but there's a Hugh McCluggage, a Lockie Neal, Bez. There's a lot of guys at the Lions that played basketball as their second sport, and they're really good at footy. So I often think, I wonder if I would have been okay. Would have that transfer through? So I think there is some transfer with the vision, the skill set and all that. So again, I would have been okay.
You would have been a star as a footballer. I have no doubt. The one thing I reckon, when you watch footballers that were basketballers, or even like your Jim Steins that came from Gaelic football, because they're non-contact theoretically to a certain point, you have that ability to fake and feign and do all these sorts of things. Whereas I reckon when you go up playing football, a lot of it, if it's not natural to do that, you're going to get tackled, so you give the ball off. So I can remember, watching Jim Steins, and he was this big unit, but he was getting himself around different players, and you could see that. Yes. And I reckon that advantage, that's where you see in basketball now, where players are so used to doing that in basketball that in football it's not a natural thing for a lot of people, particularly bigger players.
I think it's a fair call. Look, the two things that stand out for me, and obviously have these discussions with footy coaches and the guys, in basketball we're taught to keep our head up, see the floor, see what goes on, but also the ball is round, so it's pure. In footy, you're taught to get your head over the ball, and one of the big sins in footy, of course, is if you fumble. So in basketball, you're not going to fumble too much because you know where the ball's going to bounce, and so there's no wind, so it's pure. So if you look at a guy, and we use Pendles as an example, if you watch him play, everyone says, oh, gee, he's got a lot of time, hasn't he? But it's because he's developed the skill to have vision. And the other one is basketball's played in a confined space. So you have a lot of people around you, which is now where football is, because there's so many people around the ball. So that's the big advantage is the vision that you take from basketball into footy.
Because you're in traffic the whole time.
The whole time.
And like you said, with that space, you can buy that space.
Time.
By, I think wrong footing people and stuff like that. And yeah, it's a fascinating thing. So that's why I have no doubt you would have been a terrific footballer.
Well, I'll pass that on, mate. I'll let the boys know when I go back to Brisbane that they're lucky to have me.
A sliding doors moment. Obviously.
It was a sliding door moment.
You look at that one particular coach that you thought,
changed everything.
Who knows?
Yeah, was
You know,
lucky.
it's fascinating. Basketball, just let's go to that for a little bit. When you were, can you remember your first game ever of basketball?
Oh, 100%.
How old were you?
100%. 6 years old.
Right.
So Dad coached the team. It was a church team around the corner. My brother played. He was older, 18 months older, so I always wanted to follow in your brother's footsteps. And so I was the mascot, and we went to play. It was a Saturday afternoon because that's when you played, Saturday afternoons, outdoor courts. And the team, a couple of players hadn't turned up, so they were short. So they had to put me in the game, otherwise I only had 4 players. So I'm in the game at 6 years old, pretty excited, bit nervous.
Other kids, what, 8 or thereabout?
10, yeah. So because we're under 12s. And then we're down near the keyway and it's a jump ball. So the ball gets tipped to me, I grab it, turn around and shoot it, and it goes in. And I am the most excited player on the court, so just let me tell you, beyond excited. And I'm whooping and doing all the stuff, and then everyone's kind of just looking at me. And then I realise I've scored for the other team, mate. So I wouldn't have said it was a great start to my career. That's why I can remember it.
It was a nice shot. You won from one.
It was a good shot.
Yeah, nice. But that's brilliant. So obviously I want to go straight here now. We've got to go before we get into the career. When did the comb over first make an appearance?
Gee, that's a really good question, isn't it?
I'm tipping that the hair started to disappear youngish.
Yeah. I want to say 24, maybe 25, somewhere around there. So I can remember, might have been a bit earlier than that. I had an injection in my back. We'd been on a tour to the States with the Australian team, and I'd got an injury in my back and kept playing because it was my first trip, and I didn't want to pretend. Anyway, long story short, the blood had calcified into a knot lower in my back. And so back then, obviously, we don't have the medicines that we have now. So they tried to ultrasound it and it wouldn't break up. So the choices were to cortisone it or surgery. So we obviously went for the cortisone. And one of the side effects of the cortisone is that at that time that you could experience hair loss. So, you know, Dad had a full head of hair, but his dad didn't. So whether it was a part of that or not, I don't know. But the injection worked, didn't have to have the surgery. So I reckon it started around that time because I can remember maybe 3, 4, not even months, weeks later combing and just suddenly having lumps of hair come out. So whether that was it or not, I don't know. And it's different now because cortisone's got a lot more stuff that's watered down. So it was kind of a new drug at that time.
It's pretty confronting at that age.
Yeah, it is. And then you go, just get on with it. So you just start doing this, mate, just cover it over, hope for the best. And then it becomes, you know, people can poke a bit of fun at. And I'm good for a joke, you know that, mate. So I know the front bar boys have had a fair whack at it, so which was funny.
I looked at that. I think if people need to have a look at this, get onto Google and have a look. And I think they did the parody instead of the Last Dance.
Yeah,
they did the last comb over, didn't they? It was very, very good.
It was very clever.
Some nice cameos from Luke Longley and Brett Maher and all them in there. But it became an iconic part of who you were.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like you'd nail a 3 and then you just whip the little comb over back, wouldn't you?
Yep, absolutely, mate. We don't want that bit to get in my eyes, mate. So
you didn't.
And now it's trendy, mate. Everyone's got the crew cuts now. If I'd have come along 30 years later, I would have been fine. Would have just cut it all off, mate.
You should have, clipped it off and had a bald scone.
Never did that.
Right
I
from the start.
wish I had thought about that then, mate.
But it's amazing.
Wisdom comes with age, mate.
That's it. Did the blokes used to get on the lip a bit about the comb over?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Every game there'd be someone, mate, or someone in the crowd when you played away. And then I think I generally was pretty lucky as a player because playing on the road, most people liked me. You know, you get the few hecklers, but
you're a good bloke.
Yeah, and I think that helped a lot. So I never felt like I was in a hostile environment, unless it was overseas that we get a bit more hostile. But yeah, no, there was always a bit of lip. There's always something about, you know, and I look at it today and I'll go, you know, we don't want to get into, you know, all the stuff where people are saying stuff about other people. But I look back and go, wow, where the stuff that got said to me across the journey about my mother, my sister, my hair, you go, you just couldn't do it today. But, you know, there was some really clever stuff too and some funny stuff. And
yes,
I think I've shared it with some people. You know, we're playing Brazil in a game and a guy came out from Brazil to guard me and he walked straight up and I wasn't a trash talker. I was enough trouble just thinking about the game and getting oxygen and surviving. So,
but your analytical brain is analysing the match. You don't need to do that.
Didn't have time.
You're too good to need trash talking to get that psychological advantage
so
anyway.
He came straight into the game and I was number 6. He said, I'm going to wash your ass, 6.
You're going to what?
I'm going to wash your ass, 6. Well, that's new. I haven't heard that one before. And we kept playing and half-time came and then we came back out at half-time. There's a fellow called Oscar Schmidt that played for Brazil and we'd become friends over a long time because you play against each other, Worlds and Olympics. And So I'm reckon there's something wrong with your teammate, Oscar. He said, oh, why? So he keeps saying he's going to wash my ass. You've been saying it for 15 minutes now, mate. I said, I don't know what's going on. So there was a break before the umpires came out and he walked over and he came back and he said, oh, his English isn't that good. He meant to say he's going to kick your ass. Well, mate, for the next half, he came nowhere near me. He was that embarrassed about what he'd said. So I was just, it backfired on him. Backfired, probably not the right word to say, but it messed him up pretty good. So something he tried to give to me ended up biting him in the bum.
Well, literally, just about. First trash talk you ever had where someone said they'd like to wash your ass?
Yeah, first one I'd ever heard. That was the first time I'd ever heard that one. Most of them are pretty repetitive after a while.
Yeah,
And you kind of go, I reckon there were a couple of times with players that, I can remember standing at a guy shooting a free throw and the guy yabbering away and I go, really, mate, that's the best you got? You reckon I haven't heard that one before? Come on, give us something. Yeah, I like a joke and that's not funny, mate. So that was about the best I'd offer.
I like wash your ass. I've never heard that before.
Nor had I, mate.
No, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's, sometimes you want to make sure you got the right language.
Good point. Phil, obviously your CV's astounding. There's 4 Olympics. There's 5 World Championships as a player for Canberra and obviously as a coach for Adelaide. But the really interesting thing I find is the NBL started in 79.
Yep.
You were playing for your local club here, Sturt.
Yep.
You're playing for Australia at the World Champs, yet you didn't go into the NBL. You stayed with your local club. A little bit like Gary McIntosh, essentially, with Norwood.
That great story, Macca.
So,
what a star.
Yeah, why did you not go to the NBL to start with?
Because my club, Sturt, were trying to get into the NBL at that stage. So 79, they thought they might get in by 80, could get in by 81, and then it was obvious that they weren't going to.
Yep.
And obviously you needed to play in the best competition.
Yeah.
So I can remember sitting with the club and saying, look, last thing I want to do is leave. I loved playing with mates and Sturt.
Yep.
And they said, no, we understand. You've got to go. And so then the next year, Brian Curl, who was on the Australian team with me, was coaching St Kilda, and they were one of the powerhouse clubs then. And I'd just bought a business out at Nord, a sporting goods store, Red Leg Sports Store, and was working that. It was going pretty good. And then he said, mate, we need you to come and play with us. So I commuted 4 times a week to Melbourne while I was running the business. So the only reason I left Sturt, and simplistic answer, was that they couldn't get into the NBL.
Right. So it's essentially what a lot of people who saw the AFL evolve, in the late 80s, it was, if we look at it, basketball was sort of 10 years ahead in terms of how it evolved from the state comp.
Yes.
So who was in from Adelaide? West Adelaide Bearcats at the time in the National League early?
Yep.
That was the only team from SA?
Then Forestville Eagles came in, and then they amalgamated and became the 36ers, and Westie stayed for a little bit longer, and then they became the Adelaide 36ers.
Right. So Sturt couldn't get in.
Yep.
So what was that? So 3 years before you went to St Kilda.
1982, I went to St Kilda. Yeah.
Was there anyone else playing in the Australian team that didn't go to the NBL, or were you pretty rare?
I think I probably was the only one. I was probably the only one that didn't go.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you went to St Kilda for 1 year?
Yep.
You were working here at Norwood?
Yep.
How much you get paid at St Kilda for the year?
$1,500 for the year.
For the year?
So they had a hotel that I stayed in. So I'd land in Melbourne, guy'd pick me up, take me to the hotel, get changed, go to training. Then I'd fly over and obviously have the weekends. And there were 2 trainings I go over during the week for training.
Right. So back and forward.
Back and forward.
How many times a week?
4. I spent more in car park fees than I got paid that year, mate.
So they cover the flights.
Yep.
But you had to pay for your parking at the airport.
Yep. So I lost money. It wasn't a good business decision, was it?
I wonder what was a flight to Melbourne back then?
Good question, mate.
Wouldn't have been much, would it?
No, wouldn't have been. Would have been more than a 50. If I was buying the ticket, then I would have been losing heavily. But they got the tickets and
yes,
yeah.
And obviously you still stayed in the Australian team all that time with St Kilda, and then you left the Saints.
Went to Canberra.
Yep. Why still not back to an Adelaide club at that point?
So I'd sold them. So the guy that coached Canberra at the time was a fellow called Bob Turner. So he'd been coach of the Newcastle Falcons when they came in, and he'd desperately tried to recruit me to Newcastle through the whole journey. And over the journey, we'd become friends. And then he went to Canberra, took the job in Canberra. At the same time, my then wife, Jenny Cheeseman, had taken a job offer at the Australian Institute of Sport to coach there, and they offered me a job. So the 2 of them together, and to be, for mine, the coaching side of it, to be around, Adrian Hurley was the thing that went on to become the national coach, work with him and learn from him and coach young kids was just too exciting. So it was full-time basketball, really, coaching and then training at night. So the opportunity was just too good. I was only going to go for a couple of years, but finished up being 10.
So still as a young man,
Yep.
you're thinking coaching all the time.
Yeah, I just I loved the game. I loved the intricacies. I liked to learn about it. And I thought maybe I want to coach after, but it was more I could see how it helped understand the game while I was playing.
Olympics, 80, 84, 88, 92.
Yep.
80 was the boycott one.
Yep.
Your first Olympics.
Yep.
Now, Australia actually were not going to go and they were going to support the US, weren't they?
Yep.
How did
correct.
Australia end up there?
Yeah, so what happened, well, they called the boycott. First off, we were boycotting. Yep. And then there was an uproar by the Australian community. So they thought, okay, well, we'll put it to a vote. Should we go to the Olympics or not? And obviously they had the vote, and then the vote by the people was massive to Australia should go to the Olympic Games. Mm-hmm. So we left early and went to Munich to train once that decision was made, and then into the village. We were one of the first teams into the village with Zimbabwe. We were the only 2 countries in there for the first 3 or 4 days. So it was kind of a bit barren at the start. Then everyone started to pour in, but that's how it eventuated. And there were some athletes that were paid money, big profile athletes who were given money to boycott to try and make it look, like Australia's supporting the US here. So there was a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes to, even the opening ceremony. There was a message that came around that if you were competing the next day, you couldn't march in the opening ceremony because the government wanted the numbers to look small. And
so we look like we're always allies with the US.
Yeah, but, Lindsay Gaze fought really hard with a fellow called Bob Stewart, and so all the basketball guys marched in that. And a lot of other guys did too, and women that were told they couldn't, because it's one of the big things. We had the Olympics opening ceremony.
Well, I could imagine as a young man, the Olympics
massive.
Was what you wanted to do.
Absolutely. It was the pinnacle for me.
So you were always going to march?
Always.
Yeah.
Always going to march.
Can you remember walking out?
Absolutely.
In Moscow?
Oh, absolutely. You're standing outside the arena. If you can imagine, it's Adelaide Oval or MCG, and you're standing outside and you're in a queue of people because there's 100 plus countries going out, and it's that spine tingling moment where you're actually numb. You can feel your body just tingling, and you're waiting, and then you walk in through the gates. It's like this big rush of warm air for no reason because it's an open arena. And then the first 200 metres of the 400-metre track that you walk around, you're literally floating. You literally feel like you're floating and trying to take it all in and just enjoy the moment. Then you come around and get out into the middle of the arena. But that first 200 metres is one of the magic moments in your life.
How old were you when you first thought, I'd like to go to the Olympics?
I reckon I would have been 8 or 9. I can remember we didn't have a backboard at home. I used to shoot on Mum's Hills Hoist clothesline. The last line was the bucket. And I'd be playing games against America or games against Russia where this is it, last play of the game, got to win this, got to make this shot to win it, and yay, Olympic Games. So I can remember all that.
And when you finally got that chance, I mean, at one point when you knew you were going to go to the Olympics and then Australia were going to boycott,
I was devastating for a while. It was really difficult, that period. We talked, luckily, because we were a team, you had teammates that you could talk to about. I had great empathy for track and field, that's an athlete that's on his or her own trying to deal with that, because it was a really difficult time. You're up, you're down, you're devastated, you're good, you're bad. So Lindsay was smart in getting us out away from all that to have a training camp in Munich just to get away and refocus. It was pretty clever.
I can imagine when you walk into not just your opening ceremony, but when you go into a village and you went to 4 Olympics.
Yep.
Geez, it must be a pretty freaky
the
environment.
The first one you're so consumed in, just focused on your basketball and the Olympics. And then the second one, you start taking in more of what's around you. And then suddenly you look around and you go, well, there's Usain Bolt. Well, there's Michael Phelps, or, some of the greatest athletes in the world are just sitting next to you in a dining hall having a chat with you. And so that part of it, I loved that part. Basketball, unfortunately, because you play over the 14 days of the Olympiad, you don't get a chance like the swimmers. They compete in the first 3 days, they're finished, so they could go and watch whatever they want. We'd get the odd event that we could get to, and coaches encourage you to do that, to get away from it. But it's difficult because you're using that as recovery time as well. But the village lifestyle is unbelievable, and it's a massive part. The biggest moment is, A, when you know that you've made it, and then B, when you start to get your Olympic stuff. When you start to get stuff that's got the Olympic emblem, be it your tracksuit, be it your blazer, be it your uniform, that's pretty special.
Obviously, when you go into, and I've spoke to many people that have been into those villages as athletes, and it's just fascinating hearing the stories. You walk into the food court and there's obviously everything you can see. But then I look at it and I think, wow, the smorgasbord is not just the food. There is a smorgasbord of very nice looking athletes as well, isn't there?
There's a smorgasbord of athletes. There's no doubt about that, mate. And, we grow up in an athlete world. So, the women look at the men look at the women, and it's in a confined space. You've got 10,000 of the best athletes in the world at that moment in one area.
Yep.
And, it's there's an admiration for them, and there's a watch them go by, and then you got to refocus on what you're doing. So, there's multiple stories depending on who you are and what you're doing. And, there's been some unbelievable stories of coaches trying to deal with players and players trying to stay focused. And, it's an interesting place to be.
I could only imagine it'd be like just a wonderful opportunity for United Nations to all get together and really celebrate.
Solve some of the problems of the world. Absolutely.
Celebrate the world.
Yep, no doubt.
I don't expect you to open up on any of those because I imagine the statute of limitations exists forever.
Forever. Unless you're going to write a book, Saders, then you need to put something controversial in so someone buys the book, mate.
Being at the Olympics, obviously you're going against all these world-class athletes and you're getting to go against them in world championships too. It must have been just some unbelievable people you came head-to-head with because you would have had, what was it, 92, the dream team?
Yep.
Prior to that, America sent college athletes, didn't they?
Yep.
So at times you must have looked around going, what is going on here?
Oh, so, the Europeans, I love the European style of basketball. I like it better than the American style of basketball. I love the way they play and their love of the game. And
for those that aren't basketball people, how would you describe that difference then between, say, a European style and
in
American?
its simplest form, the Europeans share the ball, so they pass the ball around a lot more. The American style is to dribble the ball, so it's much more individual. So I like the movement of the ball.
Sounds a lot like culture, doesn't it? Europeans, family, embrace your family. Americans are me.
Yeah, really good analogy. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. So, it's funny when you talk about the money that came into sport. So for basketball, the Australian team, we go to the Olympic Games, and prior to that, you're outside the village. So we were given $30 a day per diem. That was what we were given to breakfast paid for, and you got $30 to buy your lunch and dinner. That's it. So we play Italy and we beat Italy at the 1980 Olympics. It's a big moment for Australia to beat the Italians because they were a super side.
Yes.
And we beat them. And I'm talking to one of the guys after that's involved with the Italian team, and the guy I played against wasn't sure whether he'd come to play at the Olympic Games or not. He was given a Porsche to convince him to come and play at the Olympics, and we're all on $30 a day, and this guy's just been given a Porsche. So, and obviously that's just, you kind of look at it and you go, that's the disadvantage for us, is that they could throw money and train and do whatever they wanted, yet we were still able to compete. There's a uniqueness about the Australian athlete that the world is jealous of, and part of it is that great brotherhood camaraderie in the trench kind of mentality. But you get some great friends. There's a guy, Vladimir Tichenko, that played for the Russians, a 7'4" guy that suffered from Giants disease, and the Russians came out. We played against them in '88 to get ready for the Olympic Games, and was it '92? Anyway, we became really good friends across the journey because he was the same age as me when I got in, that he got into the Soviet Union team, which played on for quite a while, and we're playing against Yugoslavian team, and they had a guy they called him an expendable. So he was a guy that would come into the game, and if you were playing particularly well, his job was to do whatever he needed to do to take you out of the game.
Right.
So it could be an elbow to the head to knock you out. It could be whatever it took. Anyway,
and they were happy for him to exit the game.
Happy for him to get one foul and get thrown out of the game, as long as he took care of the
best player. Or one of the.
So for whatever reason, their coach decided that was me.
Yeah.
And I could still remember that the ball got thrown. I was watching it with my eyes, and I turned around to grab it like that, and he poked both his fingers in my. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's still the most excruciating thing with breaks and dislocations that's ever happened to me through my career. And I felt like my eyes had shot out the back of my head. And I can remember going down just in massive amount of pain. And the next thing I can remember is the umpire saying, I see what happened, but I not see what happened, but I know what happened. Yep. So I go, okay. So game finishes and we're back in the hotel at the village, and Tichenko is there and he goes, I see what happened. I see what happened to my friend. We play Yugoslavia next game. I'm going to fix for you. I'm going to fix.
Right.
Rightio. So tell all the blokes on our team, we go to the game because they're playing before us, and this guy comes into the game, and as he goes along the baseline to go up and shoot it, Tachenko gets his hand, which is about this big, and boom, hits him on the head. Like he's gone to block the shot, missed it, and hit him on the head. So he goes down, he's out cold. Stretcher comes out, they take him off. This is only the second game now of the it was the World Championships.
Yep.
I had the best World Championships ever after that. So not one bloke on the opposition team came anywhere near me because they all knew that if you mess with this guy, Chenk's going to get you in the next game. So sometimes the opposition guys, but there were some great players. So look, Marshall Linus that was Lithuanian, played in the Russians, then Petrovic were the two guys that in my position, they were the superstar guards that I had to play against. And they were superstars. So it was the big challenge playing them, and they were always complimentary after. Loved playing against you. Toughest guy we played against, great. And we became friends with both. Unfortunately, Drazen passed away in a car crash going to see his girlfriend. But those guys I remember and playing with them and getting to know them and their teammates, getting to know people from around the world that, I wouldn't see them now. I might see them again in 10 years, but we'll see each other and we're still really close. So I enjoy those things.
It's the connections.
Yep.
Across sport, across life.
Yep.
That I reckon seem to be the things that really stick with people.
100%. And sports are a great thing. And you travel a lot. You know that. You step into the airport and there'll be a cricketing team going through and you're going through and you all gravitate towards each other and, hi, I know who you are and I know who you are. And it breaks down all the barriers and friendships get formed really easily, and it's really easy to meet out. And then even around the world, the one great thing about the Olympics, it's a great club. If you're an Olympian, you're in the club. If you've been lucky enough to go 2, 3, 4 or whatever the number is, the more you've gone, the bigger your status recognition if someone is to meet you, and go, well, what a pleasure, what an honour, So it goes, obviously, if you get a gold medal, the best in the world, but, it's a great barrier breaker, I think, to form some friendships around the world.
When you get to that 92 and they bring the dream team in and obviously change the whole
Absolutely.
scope.
Yep.
So, like we said before, I think American sent college players, didn't they, normally, up until that point?
Yep.
And you got to play in 92, of course, at Barcelona.
Yep.
It was completely turned on its head, wasn't it?
Absolutely. So if you talk about the pinnacle event of the Olympic Games, there's always been the 100 metres. Up until 1992, 100 metres. Whatever was going on, that was the focus, biggest event to get to, hottest ticket price, the number one viewing thing on TV, 100 metres. 92, it became the dream team. So they turned up at the Olympics and it was like AC/DC turning up for a concert. It was rock star at its greatest. And they couldn't stay in the village. They came in a few times, came in and went out, but they couldn't stay there because they just got mobbed. And obviously for Jordan, for him, anywhere he went, he was just going to draw a crowd.
Yep.
The other guys were still big, but not quite as big as him. Magic Johnson, obviously Larry Bird, those guys, but they also liked that. They fed off that a bit. So it was good for them. We didn't get to play them, got to meet them all. And they were great guys. They were unbelievable ambassadors for the NBA, for basketball, but they lifted the profile of basketball to become the event, which it's been probably since then, along with the 100 metres.
Yeah. Now, tell me about the Sean Kemp situation, because didn't he was going to break you in two or something at one point?
94 World Cup.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's Dream Team 2, of course, with Shaquille O'Neal, Kemp, all these superstars. They come into the game. Sean Kemp, for those that don't know, 6'10", phenomenal athlete. Looks like he's chiseled out of granite and an imposing presence. They called him the Birdman because he literally looked like he could fly. He was what Jordan was. He was dangerously close with his athleticism. So, and a physically more imposing beast. So he walked straight up to me and he bent over and he's this far away from my nose. And I'll leave the swear words out for you, but
we can beep them.
I'm going to F you up.
Right.
I'm a F you up bad. SMYTH, I'm a F you up. So talking about one of the legends of the NBA here. In my head, which now confirms how good a trash talker I am, how good's that? Sean Kemp knows my name.
That was the first thing I just said. When you said that, he goes, SMYTH. You go, what?
Well, Sean Kemp knows my name. This far away from my face. So I must have smiled thinking, how good's that? Sean Kemp knows my name. You smiling at me, you little mother effer? I'm going to lift you off the ground. I'm going to snap your arms off like little chicken wings. What do you think about that, you little mother effer? I'm still thinking, how good's that? Sean Kemp knows my name. He said, what are you doing, man? You're not listening to me. I said, no, I'm listening to you. I said, so what do you think about what I just said to you? I'm going to lift you off the ground. I said, I'll tell you the truth, Kempy, I think you probably could. Because to tell you the truth, I reckon he could. So instead of, I'm thinking, because that was the first thing that came to mind, you smart mouthing me, you little mother effer.
Yeah.
Yo, Shaquille, come over here, man. So he calls Shaquille O'Neal over. And everyone knows Shaq. And he is an enormous man and a very, very nice man too. Had the pleasure of spending a bit of time with him. Anyway, he comes over like, oh, Kempy, what's going on, man? This little smart mother effer's, smart mouthing me. He goes, oh, man, what's going on? I said, well, your man Kempy came over, said he's going to lift me off the ground, snap my arms off like little chicken wings. Then he asked me what I thought about it. So I said to him, to tell you the truth, Shaq, I said, I think you can, because I think he probably can.
Yep.
Shaq starts laughing. He goes, yo, Kempy, that's pretty funny. Leave the little man alone. So that's just one of many things that happened through the course of games, mate. So then I had to go to the presser after with Shaq. So we were walking off the court. He came over and he put his arm around me. It was like someone had dumped a cow across my shoulders. And we spent a lot of time talking. And he's just a really good guy. And you can see that over the journey, the things he's done with charities and other stuff. So, his comment was that he loved basketball. He loved the freedom that it gave him because it was the only place in the world where he could just be himself. And I said, well, he said, you talk about other players. You don't talk about Jordan, how great Jordan is. He said, and he said, but he's 6'7". He can put a hat on and a coat and he can walk down the street and he said, I can't do that. And he couldn't, no matter what he put on, he's Shaquille O'Neal. He's just a giant of a guy. So
obviously when you were playing, it's so different to now where we see all these great Aussie guys, even Josh Giddey in the last couple of days
tearing it up.
Get his second
comparing him to,
but you didn't go to the NBA, and I'm sure there would have been opportunities at some point. When you get the chance to play against some of those guys at World Championships and Olympics, how do you reckon you would have fared? And again, I know you're going to be humble here, but honestly,
we played him in 94, which was coming towards the end of my career, unfortunately. But I think the thing that you noticed most about them playing against them was the athleticism, speed, skill of them. You could adjust to it. It's a tough question. I would have been okay. I had my chance in 88 to go and didn't, because if I had have gone in 88, I was classed as a professional, which meant I couldn't play for Australia anymore. And the rules changed in 92. So, but again, growing up as a kid, my dream was to play for Australia. My dream wasn't to play in the NBA. So it was different to kids now, and then they can do it. So I have nothing but just great admiration for them. I would have been okay. I would have been okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest for a moment that I'd be Josh Giddey or Michael Jordan or, Paxman or those kind of guys that you thought that you watch and try and learn from.
Is it, it's not so much, I imagine it wouldn't be a regret because you've done so many things, but if you go back now and when things changed in 92 with the professionalism, if you could, would you go back in 88 and go, you know what, I want to take it on?
Probably. Yeah, because it wouldn't have inhibited me from playing for Australia. That was the thing that stopped me from going. It was nothing else. I wasn't scared to go. I wasn't. And they had veterans camp. So mine was different. I didn't have to go to rookie camp. I didn't have to try out. So I was guaranteed veterans camp and a chance to play. So that part would have been okay. So I would have been on the team. So at some stage I would have been playing. How much playing, don't know. But I didn't have to go through all the other stuff. So,
but I could imagine you wouldn't swap having played NBA for the chance to play for Australia so much.
Not a chance. No, it's not even a thought.
Yeah.
No, that was my dream as a kid.
When you look through all of that basketball time, is there one moment that sticks out across your entire career that makes you smile the most?
Ooh, well,
whether it was coaching, whether it was playing, whether it was being for Australia, but is there one particular moment that you could hold on to and go, do you know what, that is the moment that I hold closest to my heart in my basketball time?
There's probably a couple. It's hard to narrow. It's always difficult to narrow it down. One, I remember beating Italy for a lot of reasons. Obviously the first Olympics, and the time you do something the first is the one that it seems to be the biggest impression on you, isn't it? And Lindsay Gaze, who I just admired as a coach and still to this day just think he's a great man. When we beat Italy, to see him, because he was a sit in his seat, never get up, not emotive, always thinking, to get up and storm along the sidelines, double fist pumping and getting so excited. That was a great moment for the team to beat a powerhouse in basketball. But it was a great moment to see a guy who'd put so much of his life into the game to see what it meant to him. So that I can recall that vividly in my mind as I talk about it. So that's one of them. To finish fourth a couple of times were great moments. But one off getting a medal, just with Adrian Hurley and the chance we lost to America, and we had a chance to win a bronze. That one was a great moment to get that close. I think the opening ceremony. I think the opening ceremonies are the ones that you hold on to and go, well, I'm here with 10,000 of the greatest athletes in the world and I'm just one of them. They're pretty special.
One thing that fascinates me with people that have achieved like you have on an international stage is people always have self-doubts.
Yep.
There's always an ego involved, all these different things. When you're out there and you're playing against the very, very best in the world, you must have enormous belief in your own ability.
Yep.
Did you doubt yourself much during your career, or could you step out there confident enough to know you could take on pretty much anyone?
No, there's always an element of doubt. People don't realise how fragile athletes are, or coaches. There's a fragility about them that they think they don't have because you're in front of everything, so you never see it because they can't portray it. Mine was always based on I always believed I did more work than anyone else in my own time, always trained extra, always did more work. So I could always, if I started to doubt, I'd pull back going, I know I've done more work than this guy. I know it because I know I trained twice on Christmas Day. I trained twice on New Year and I did extra trainings on top. So I knew that I was always doing more than anyone else. So that gave me the edge on going into a game going, the difference between that and playing against the NBA guys for the first time was it's difficult to play against someone you admire. That's the tricky part because you go, wow, I'm coming up against someone I've admired for a long time. So you have to change your mind on he's a human being. So I'm not playing against a guy that can fly.
Yep.
So, okay, let me find his weakness. So I'd quickly spin around going, I'm watching him now. What's his weakness? So I took the things from players that I admired that they did well and tried to put that into my game.
Yep.
Now I'd analyse and go, okay, where's his weakness? And then I'd say, okay, this is where he's vulnerable. Everyone's got some vulnerability.
Yep.
Just got to find it.
Yep. In those moments, and for anyone, because like you said, it's hard to play against people you admire, and you get all these kids now, if they get drafted or they get picked up in different sports, they're essentially often playing against people they admire because that's how they got to where they are because of that inspiration.
Yep.
How do you go about changing that mindset?
I think it's pretty simple. Well, if you're comfortable that you've done the work to get you there, then you have some self-belief. If you've taken some shortcuts, now you're in trouble because now the demons will come out and you'll start second-guessing going. But most of the athletes that get to that level haven't taken shortcuts. So their self-belief comes and then suddenly as the game goes on, early in the game you start to get more comfortable. You go, oh, this is okay. I can do these things in this game. And so it disappears pretty quick. Going into the game, you're always a little bit nervous. It's like anything going into a final. If you said to a player, are you nervous going in? He said, absolutely not. I'd be concerned about that because you're not on edge. You need to have a little bit. You don't want too much.
Yep.
So there's always some nervousness. There's probably just a fraction more in that scenario.
Were you ever driven by fear in any way?
Fear of failure. Absolutely. Always fear of failure. Always a fear of failure. And then as you get going and the expectation comes on, then people expect you to deliver all the time. So now you've got to find ways to, if I'm not shooting particularly well, what other weapons have I got? What other things can I go to? How can I contribute in the game? How do I get other players involved to, I was probably more geared on the team concept along with the individual concept as opposed to the individual concept going with the team concept. I struggle with players that even today, if I watch a basketball game or a footy game where you can see the guy's only interested in what he's doing, I struggle with those kind of players and I struggle with them getting accolades. That's
happening a lot in people's lives anyway. And I think the world feels like, and probably social media is a real driver.
Driving it, no doubt. The more click you can get, the more TikTok, the more bait, the more whatever they call it, is driving that, and it's dangerous. It is dangerous because you become selfish and in the end you'll become lonely.
Yeah.
I believe that. If you're a selfish person, you might have wealth, you might create a lot of things, but suddenly you get to the end and you go, how many friends have I got? what have I really got? And I read a really good article the other day. I was just researching some stuff, and it was a priest, funny enough. And I'm not religious, not anti-religious, but his comment was that hundreds of times he's been at deathbeds with people, and not once have they said, could you bring that trophy? Can you get me my favourite trophy? Can you get me this? Can you get me something that's all of them have said, I want my friends to know, or I haven't got any friends. It's been a lonely life, hasn't it? And you thought right then, I go, yeah, that's, you know, and you've been in sport and I've been in sport. The best things are your teammates, you know, and the friendships you make. So you can't have true friends if you're selfish. So I think that's a really important message.
It is a very good point. I think there was a study that they did over Harvard over 90 years, and they just followed people's lives. And it was released a couple of years ago, and it was what makes people happy about their life. And the number one thing above everything was connection.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it?
Well, you know, I'm at the stage where there's more of the tarmac behind me than in front of me. So I think you get to that stage where you go, I just need to focus on, you know, being a good person, being happy.
Yep. Your career is amazing, as we touched on some of it there. One other one I want to ask you about before we start talking about your philosophies and what you're doing now with it. Obviously, many people may be aware of the Magic Johnson moment in 92, where you get thrust on an international stage because the press have taken things the wrong way. For those that aren't familiar, give us a little snapshot of what happened back then.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty – I'm glad you brought it up, mate, because it's a horrendous one. No, so 1992, we'd travelled overseas to play to get ready for the Olympic Games, and we came back. A journalist had rung up in Adelaide to do an article and said, I wanted to talk about the trip. So I started talking about the trip that we'd been on, and then mentioned that Magic Johnson had announced while we were away that he had contracted the HIV virus. Now, bear in mind we're talking 1992 here, not 2025. So the knowledge then of the HIV virus was very minimal. So there was speculation that you could get it by breathing in the same room as someone breathing, or if you'd got in a hot tub with them, or swam in a pool that they'd been in. And obviously if they had an open wound, you could contract it. So there was massive amount of speculation on how you could contract the virus, and obviously sexually you could. So the question that was asked was, how do you feel about Magic Johnson coming out and saying he had the HIV virus? So I'm really sad for Magic, and, you know, it's disappointing. And then the next question was, how do you feel about playing against him in Barcelona? I said, I've got no issue playing against Magic Johnson as long as medically it's okay. The headlines the next day were, SMYTH refuses to play Magic Johnson. And then the quote was in there, of course, but most people just grabbed the headline.
Of course.
And then it exploded onto the world stage from there that I hated people with AIDS, you know, and pretty much attacking you on all the things that you prided yourself on, being a good person and trying to get knowledge. So, you know, there were articles in the Sydney Morning Herald with a picture of me with a condom over my head saying it would be safe to play Magic Johnson like this. I had death threats. I had stuff thrown at my car. I hated the gay community. All this stuff went through that period. I had to have, in the end, 24/7 security around the house. You know,
this was back in Adelaide?
I was in Canberra. I was in Canberra at the time. Yeah.
So you're in Canberra, and that much hatred
so there was hate mail coming to the club. There was nice mail coming. And funny enough, about 3 or 4 years ago at Mum's, there were 2 boxes in the shed. One was a box of letters from doctors around the world saying, don't play against Magic because it's too risky. And I had another box saying it's all okay to play. So bear that in mind. These are world doctors sending me this information. So then, of course, we arrive at the Olympic Games, and it's still being said. And there are a couple of players that have come out and said they refused to play against Magic, and there were some from other teams that had said that. So anyway, a guy who was assistant coach of the Dream Team was a fellow called PJ Colissimo, and he'd been out in Australia earlier, and I'd met him and looked after him in Canberra, and we'd become mates. And I said, listen, I saw him at the village, said, look, mate, I need to talk to Magic just to clear up. Because Magic came out and said, look, he won't play against any of the teams if they don't want to play against him. He doesn't want to take the focus. So he was unbelievably classy about that. So at the same time, Basketball Australia said in their wisdom, we don't want you to make any more comments about it. So man, I'm getting pillared around the world to not say this is all I said. So in the end, I let it ride for 3 or 4 days. So I'm backtracking. So then there was Yarn Event, Darren Hinch and Ray Martin shows were all the midday shows. So I went on the Ray Martin show to clarify what I'd said. And Brian Sander, who was the Crows doctor, was also head of medicine for the Olympic team. He came out a week or two later and said, it's a reasonable question that he's asked. Is it medically okay? And so that kind of doused it down a little bit, which was good of Sando to do that. So anyway, jettison to the Olympics. PJ, listen, I need to just go to Magic and just clarify what I've said. I want him to know this is the person I am and not some of what's been created and some that isn't. So anyway, long story short, opening ceremony, mate. PJ said he'll be at the opening ceremony. Come out, come and say good day. I'll introduce you to Magic, which is what I did. So opening ceremony, find your way because you're waiting for other things to happen. PJ introduces me to Magic and said, look, this is Phil Smythe. He's a good guy. This is what it's all been about. And I said, look, Magic, this is what I said and this is what's been portrayed. He was fantastic. Could not have been, and it was intimidating. I mean, he's imposing and his profile, like he's one of the guys I loved as a player and admired as a guy.
Yep.
He couldn't have been nicer. Put his arm around me and said, look, I know how the media works. But don't worry about it. It'll all be okay. And then he came out a year or two later with a travelling group and we hung out a bit. There's pictures of us with arms around each other, walking off courts and stuff like that. So it was an ugly time though.
How scary was it when we're talking death threats and all these sorts of things?
No, scary. It was scary. And the hardest part, the part I found most difficult, I think, was wondering what people now thought of me. You know, like to go for a walk down to the shop, would people go, oh, there's that racist or there's that bloke that hates people or were they saying, oh, he's actually a really nice guy, I don't believe he said it. So I had more trouble dealing with that and you become a bit of a night owl where I'd just go out at night. I wouldn't go out during the day. I'd go to training and come home, you know, because it impacted that way. Wow. And because we all want to be seen, you know, in the end there's always people that don't like you and that's fine. We accept that in life. But when you're being portrayed as something that you're not, that's a really difficult thing to deal with.
What lengths were you going? Were you disguising yourself? Were you doing?
No, I just became recluse. Just stayed more at home, stayed in the house or around my teammates, people that knew me.
And how long did that last?
Probably 3-4 months.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It's a long time. It wears you down, you know.
Yeah.
And I watched a very, very close friend go through that, you know, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Recently.
How did you overcome that? How did you get back out after 3 or 4 months where you could actually feel comfortable because you hadn't done a thing wrong?
Nah, I think, in the end, obviously, it came out, you know, because people then analysed it and then Magic was good. He came out in an interview and said, oh, no, I've spoken and, you know, it's not what was said, this is what was said. And, you know, that kind of, the same thing we were talking about before we came on the show, how you deal with something, man up, go and say this is what got said and then they've got an opportunity to go, I'm not talking about it anymore or go, no, this is, spoken with this guy, I know what's going on now, this is right. And, you know, and then people see you later on with him so it all goes away.
You can find a silver lining in that. I can imagine now that it gave you an opportunity to get to know Magic Johnson.
100%.
He got the chance to know you.
100%. That's, for me, when you reflect back on it, that is the lining, is that I would have never gone and sought out someone to, mate, can you introduce me to him? I would never do that. But it did give me that opportunity. I got a chance to know him. And then when he came out to Australia, I got a chance to know him better. So that's the upside. And then people, you know, we all learn from it. And then that's how the blood rule came into footy. The blood rule came in off the back of that, you know, that conversation about that's the danger. So there were some good things that came out of it later on.
It's probably a good point. Now, you didn't do anything wrong.
Yep.
But you took responsibility for what had happened.
Yep.
And the olive branch worked perfectly.
Yeah.
A lot of people find it very hard to take responsibility when they've actually done something wrong. You went and did it when you hadn't done a thing wrong. You know what I mean?
I there's a good lesson in that too. I think what you say is right. If you make a mistake, just own up that you've made. And sometimes it's really difficult. You know, if you're going to hurt people along the way or shy away from it. Again, we all make mistakes. And so if you've made the mistake and you don't want to own up to it, then do everything you can after that to encourage people not to make the same mistake. So if you've learnt something, then pass the learning on.
Such a fantastic career across winning championships, playing in championships, as a coach, Olympics, all these different things. You clearly still have this thirst and hunger to be involved and help and use all of those experiences to do other things. Tell us about now what you're doing with people, particularly Brisbane, because it's been such a great story, but you're doing it with others as well.
Yeah, there was mentoring is the word that they use. I don't really know how to describe it. I can't say I've got a word for it, but mentoring seems to be one that kind of fits, or you're going with Coach Whisperer. I kind of don't mind that one. That's
I love that.
Better than being dickhead. So it actually started with Mark Williams, funny enough, when he was coaching Port Adelaide. Mark and I had been family friends for a long time, and we'd often sit and philosophize about sport. And he's got an unbelievably active mind, and I enjoy his company because he challenges you to be better. And I think people misread that with Mark, that he's challenging you, but he wants you to be the best you can be. So then obviously his time at Port Adelaide, spent some time with him, and then Damien Hardwick got the job at Richmond, and we'd formed a friendship. At his time, his kids were at the same school as mine. Yep. And then he got the job at Richmond and went over and spent a week or two with him. And then James Fantasia was at the Bulldogs, asked me to spend a week with Rodney Eade and see what I could see to help him. And then Rob Snowden, who was good friends with Chris Fagan, said Fags needs a bit of a hand. It's a big rugby town, Queensland. He hasn't got any mates to talk sport with. He needs a mate. So flew up with a fellow called Jared Cotton, who I was doing a bit of work with at Nord at the time, just philosophy stuff with coaching. And Fags and I just started talking, and then David Noble, who was then the footy ops guy, rang and said, look, Fags is pretty keen to keep you around and, can you fly in and out a bit? And we talked and found a way to make that work. And then Fags and I, 7-8 years now. So kind of, week in, week out, or, depends on what's going on at the time. And I stay at his place with him and his family, his wife Ursula's, and if you live with someone, you're going to become pretty good friends. So we've become great friends, and I've enjoyed the journey. So and obviously it expands out of that to working with all the coaches, sit in the coaches box, watch what they do, talk to them about that. From time to time, the players will come up, and obviously being at that period of time, they've got to know you really well. And the young guys that come in, they're quite funny at the start. They kind of look and go, who is this bloke? What's he doing? Then they hit the magic Google, mate, and instant credibility once you hit Google. So, and then they'll ask around. So I've got some really good friendships with most of the guys on the team. So you become just a sounding board, really.
So give us a snapshot. What would you do with Chris Fagan?
A lot of walking and talking. And sometimes he'll go, I've been thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? Did you come across this in your coaching career? He'll lead people to believe that he's learnt more from me than I've learnt from him, but he's kidding himself. I've learnt a lot more from him. So, the coaches have to store massive amounts of information. It's massive. And then because there's so much scrutiny around the coach and what's going on, it's difficult for them to trust people, and stories get out at all clubs. It doesn't matter where they are. So it's finding some people that I think that they can trust, that understand what they're going through. And then sometimes you just need to listen, and sometimes they're looking to, yep, that's the right one, or could you look at it this way? So a lot of that discussion for us is just looking at how you would handle different personalities. I don't get into the intricacies unless one of the coaches asks me. They say, oh, mate, have a look at this. What do you think? Then I'll talk to them about it. Not once in the whole time that I've been there would I have gone to any of the assistant coaches or to Fags and gone, hey, I reckon Soda should be playing on the wing, mate, not in the midfield. Well, what the hell's going on with player X? And if they come and ask, or if one of the players come and ask, I'll chat with them. But normally I'll talk to the coach and say, player B is going to come and have a chat, mate. Is there anything that I need to, and if the player doesn't say, if he in confidence wants to talk about it, then it never goes past that. But sometimes you can say, yeah, mate, you need to always go and talk to the coach. Always my advice.
With that time, so you came in 2019.
Yep.
Fags already had 2 years at the club coaching, and he'd won 5 games in each of those years.
Yeah, very poor. Very poor, mate. Very average.
2019, I think they win 16 games.
Yep.
The Phil SMYTH connection. The general's in the house, and suddenly they've won 16. But what did you see? What changed? Because obviously you went there those first 2 years. What happened around that 2019? Did you see? I'm going to say it's you, but what was it? What did you see?
So there's a story in that when I sat down with Fags at the end of that, because I'd come in to meet him at the end of that second year, sat in his office, and I can remember it clearly, him showing me the graph that they'd won the same number of games in the second year that they'd won the first, but the gap was closing dramatically. And we talked about how many games do you think, because as coaches, you always try and take a guess of where you think you might be next year. And, okay, do you think if we can get X number of games, if we can win this number of games, I reckon 10 might have been the number. Yep. We'll be much better. We're continuing to rise. So it was all about the rise. And obviously then it took off and they win 16 games into the finals. And I've joked to this constantly about Fags. We'll talk about it. And he is the most humble bloke you'll ever meet. And, mate, I love him like a brother. And I'll say to him, mate, you were pretty average the first 2 years till I came in. I can't see why he just didn't recognise that earlier. And he has come back because he's very quick. He's very, very quick-witted. He said, I suppose you're going to acknowledge that Lockie Neal came in at the same time, aren't you? So that may actually be the real secret, mate. I saw that Lockie Neal was coming and went, this is a good time to get in because I reckon they're going to take off. But it is what he had done in those first 2 years laying the foundation to continue to improve and taking a risk with a Harris Andrews, those kind of guys, a Hugh McCluggage. There were a lot of guys that he took a punt on and gave them game time where I don't think a lot of coaches would. And at the same time, working out who was good for the club and who wasn't, making Zorks the captain because he was a very positive, energetic kind of guy. Yeah. So he had a blueprint and a plan that he'd worked to, and it just took off a little bit quicker.
So in that time, obviously, you start playing finals and he's played final. You guys, you can say you guys, you've got your line stop on.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
No, it's great.
I put it on this morning to go to the gym and then thought, I've got to come and see you first. So
brilliant. So you look there, so from 19 onwards, 29 onwards, you played finals.
Yep.
And then I think the finals record for those first few years was 1 win, 5 losses, and there's some prelim finals in there as well in one of those situations where you lose. But now you look at it, it's 11 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
What helped change? Do you need to have a little bit of failure, where a couple of straight sets exits, and suddenly things now have obviously gone enormously? Was there a turning point? Was there something that you can sort of put your finger on?
I think they continue to evolve and the endeavour to continue to get better, and the way the coaches find ways to get better plays a part in it. But experience is massive, and the finals are different. And as coaches, be it in my time or Brisbane's time or Richmond's time, when the coaches talk to the players about this is what you can expect to happen through the finals, the players are listening, but they're not receiving. And they want to. Intentions, I always say the intention's right, but the execution's going to be wrong. But then once you experience it as a player, you understand it and you're not distracted by it anymore. You don't go to bed 2 nights before and play the game going, I've got to do this in this final, I've got to do that, because you can say it's the same game. It's just got the word final attached to it. And there's always a little bit more, it's quicker, it's a bit of pressure. But so I think that has helped them a lot, those final experiences. And you learn, Fags is really big on we learn from our losses. So as opposed to, berating or something, okay, what did we learn from this? Your comment, what's the silver lining? How are we getting better? Yep. And that continues to grow in the group. And then self-belief comes. Once you start performing well on the big stage and self-belief, and then you have a belief that you can win from any position. And so those doubts that we talked about earlier start to become minor instead of, the demons come into your head.
3 grand finals in a row.
Yep.
Lose one to Collingwood by 4 points.
Unlucky. Yep.
Can you remember being in the box that day?
Absolutely. It was devastating.
What was taken out of that day?
The thing I take from it at the moment is just the exhaustion that comes from the effort of getting there and then losing, and then the emotion comes into it. Mine was looking down on the ground and going down onto the ground. I was fortunate enough to be able to do with the players and seeing the devastation on their face, the tears in their eyes, the genuine pain of losing, the hurt. And I think the biggest take from it is not letting that pain, not trying to park it, push it away and forget it, is to go, if you don't want to feel it again, then now you know what it's going to take. If you go lost and wallow in it and feel sorry for yourself and we were close but. So I think you need to reflect on it enough to drive you, to be the drive. A little bit of the fear, a little bit, I don't want this pain anymore. We were a kick away. So my feeling is most of the group took that. And I reckon if you asked all of them, what did they do in the off season? Most of them got away, but they all started training earlier. All came back in great shape, best shape, and they've continued to do that every year since.
With those failures, and you've obviously had great success as a player and a coach, but you've lost them as well.
Yep.
Do you have to sit in it and feel that pain for a while?
Absolutely you do. And there's no, you can't hide from it. You want to, but if you ask any coach, if you ask me now, what do you remember most in your career? The first thing that fires into your brain are the losses. I can recite games, the Collingwood game. I could tell you a lot about that game. The losses in my basketball career in finals, because as coaches and players, you analyse those to find out what happened. The ones you win, they're so euphoric. You remember moments of them, but you don't. We tend to go over our losses much more to try and work out how to succeed. Whereas when you win, you go, oh, we won, it was so good. And you watch a little bit of it and you just enjoy that moment. Whereas when you lose, you watch all of it to try and work out where it went wrong. So you need to go through the loss, watch it, pain, and go, okay, now we need to get above it.
Is the pain of the loss greater than the euphoria of the wins?
They're the exact polar opposite. The euphoria of winning is the same pain in losing. So when you see that, I look at Cal Archie, for example, after the game. He's a ripper, Cal. He is bawling his eyes out because he has won it. He is, in the next year, to see the look, the honest look on the players' faces and the hugs, their full physical, break your rib kind of, we've done it stuff. And there's magic moments in sport when you win. The one for me was Oscar McInerney, who'd dislocated his shoulder and became a big part of a bloke that wasn't playing to give himself to the team. That was his line in a meeting 2 weeks out. If we want to win, or 3 weeks out, we have to give ourselves to the team in a leadership meeting. And no one did that better than him. But to see his reaction after the game with 40 who filled in for him in the ruck, just so pure and so raw, that's the other one when you lose. You see it's raw. It's just a raw pain or raw happiness.
How fitting for Oscar then a year later.
Unbelievable. And
For a moment.
Yeah, mate, he's a great player, great team player. He's one of my, they're all favourites in some way, but for mine as the pin-up boy for team, he is at the next level. Yeah, it was great for him. And it was touch and go there for a while too with his back. So full credit. Now he's retired and he gets to live with the memory, And then the one where Fags gives him his medal, a few days later after the game. There's little moments where you look and go, Bruce McAvaney is special. They're really special moments.
Yeah. Obviously, the pain of losing a grand final, those prelims, must create enormous belief. And Brisbane, and I'm sure you played a role in that with Fags, able to, like you're saying, feel it, absorb it, and move on. So when you get to the success of winning 24 and 25, and particularly that moment in 24, was it 44 points down against GWS?
Well,
you win that game.
Yep.
Does a lot of that happen because of what happened before in those years preceding to have that confidence?
I think there's a component of that. A lot of it's what happens during the year before that follows into the next season, that belief of we can come from anywhere. We can come from anywhere. And the win against GWS was an amazing win. I want to congratulate Adam Kingsley because he came after the game. He walked past the change room where Brisbane were. And I know he's got a good friendship with Stewie Jew, and we've got a friendship, not as tight as obviously Stewie, but he stopped and called us out and congratulated us on the win. And I can remember him saying, I used to love footy, not so much today, but you guys well deserved. And I was just really classy to do that. And you get those moments where you stick and go, there's some really good people in the game that don't get those things. But the belief to succeed when it's against you comes from what you've built over a period of time. It doesn't just happen, okay, we're down by 43, we're going to win. That's built over years.
The moment that obviously won in 24 and beat Sydney pretty comfortably. So you can enjoy it for a while. In the end, right?
Yep.
Clearly not comfortable throughout the game.
No.
Fags finally gets there after wonderful persistence and dealing with a lot of pain.
Yep. Tell
us about what happens at 24 when you win.
It's a really interesting one because we're walking through it. There's some funny things that happen. And we're not superstitious guys. Athletes have some, which sock do you put on, favourite pair of undies, whatever you want to have. And there's a little bit of that around sporting people. The day before the grand final, we're walking, Fags and I have gone off for a walk, and this guy stops us, an older guy in the middle of the street, clearly doesn't recognise us as far as we could work out. and we stop and talk to him. And he turns around, comes back and goes, I want to give you guys a penny each. It was a 1954 penny. I think Fags might have been 55. We both walk and go, bizarre, isn't it? A guy giving out old pennies as you walk along the street. And did you know him? No, I didn't know him. We're continuing to talk about it. Anyway, as we walk away, he goes, lucky penny. Like that, we go, oh, yeah, okay. So anyway, it was a lucky penny because we won the grand final. So I said to him as we walked the next morning, we'd gone out pre the Sydney game for a walk, and we're just talking about all kinds of stuff. And I said, wouldn't it be great as a coach, just once in your life coaching in a grand final where you're up by 10 goals and you could just sit back and enjoy the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game going, how good is this? How good is this? And then we both, at exactly the same moment, we both said, and I'm telling you the truth, both said, yeah, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. They were exact words, and we both remember it. Anyway, of course, they win by 10 goals. And I have said to him since, mate, do you remember that conversation? He goes, yeah, but I do remember asking him this. I said, mate, at what stage in the game did you get a chance to enjoy it? He said, when the siren went. So he was so focused on the game that he just couldn't let it go. He knew they were winning. So there's part of him that knows the score, the other part of not until the siren goes off. So for him, the moment where we see him walking towards, and Lee Matthews is there because they share a great friendship, and Lee's been a massive supporter of Fags and great in his footy knowledge and someone that he can, and they've got a great friendship. For those two to come together, which was a fluke in a lot of ways because Lee was down there to present, otherwise he wouldn't have been there to present the trophy and stuff, and you go, there's a pretty special moment. There's a special moment. And then there was one after where he was in the coach's room on his own with Ursula and his kids and the family they were just in there on their own. For me, they're the two moments that, and then there's all the player embraces and the Powerade tipped over by the boys and all that fun stuff. But those two moments for me were the moments that, one, I've accomplished something and my great friend is here to share that moment. And then these are the people that have sacrificed a lot, my wife and my two daughters. And I've got a moment after the grand final where there's 500 people in a room and I've been able to steal a moment with my family. You go, treasure both of those for me.
At halftime in the 25 grand final, it's all square.
Yep.
Hadn't been like that for a long time. What was your thoughts at that point, and what was Fags talking about with you around those times?
So at halftime he goes in with Danny Daly and they talk about what they're seeing in the game, get their thoughts together. He writes up stuff on the board. Then the line coaches are down talking with their players. So I might go and listen to the midfield coach or one of the players. I might give him a pat on the back and say, mate, you're flying, everything's really good. Or, sometimes they just want to ask a question in a chat or so I was kind of buzzing around the players. Then come in at halftime and he was really calm, very clear what they were doing well. I was probably in the coach's box more nervous early in the first quarter because they were doing all the attacking. And Harris Andrews was unbelievable. He was next level at stopping the onslaught. And you go, we've survived that. And if we had have played a little bit better, it would actually be okay. So I felt like we had the momentum. There was a shift coming. Didn't quite see it was going to come as the way it did, but felt like we were still in control, not playing as well as we could. And I thought they were probably playing as well as they could. So that's what it felt like. The box was very calm. Coaches were clear, really precise in their messaging. There was no, panic. There was none of that. So it was quite calm. Then as we walked out, just have that moment. We have a look. Everything okay, mate? Said, yeah, all good. So go out and then away they go.
Again, I know you're very humble. So anything you say can never be seen as being arrogant or whatever. But at halftime of that game, did you think you guys would win?
Good question. I don't know that I was thinking so much about the winning, more thinking about if we do this, this and this, then we're going to be okay.
Process.
If we do this, we're okay. And then the things that he said were simple. Changed a couple of things, and obviously the big change. It's not bad we can bring a Brownlow medalist in, mate, just before, just to start your second half. And I do remember this. So it was about I'm sure he doesn't mind me sharing this. It was about 5 minutes before the end of the half where he said, okay, boys, start thinking about Lachie Neale coming in. And there was a lot of talk about Lachie, leading into the game. Would he play? Wouldn't he play? If he's playing, why doesn't he start? And it's been well documented now. And to Lachie's credit, the injury that he had would normally be a 4 to 6 week injury.
Without doubt.
So he's a unique beast, Lachie, and his calves are as big as your quads, mate. So, but he worked meticulously on giving himself every opportunity to be there and had done everything. On the game for Collingwood, he'd gone out and had a private training session with the high-performance people, and it was a rigorous session, we're led to believe. I wasn't there because we were at the game and getting organised and stuff, and did everything he was asked to do. Pulled up great the next day. So then the discussion was, okay, what are we going to do here with Lachie? So I'm only sharing this so there's a bit of history so people don't go, it was a wild guess. So a lot of talk about how that might play out. Then on the Monday, Fags had said to Lachie, I will pick you if you can train a full session on Tuesday and a full session on Thursday. He said, if you get through those 2 sessions, 2 full sessions, injury-free, you're in. If you can't, I'm not doing any extras because we've already done all that. So Lachie trained full session Tuesday and was on fire. Full session Thursday, on fire. Most people go, well, that's pretty good. Well, the funny part is over the course of most of the season, Lachie doesn't do a full Tuesday or a full Thursday. He's too sore. He's too beaten up. So he's already done more than he normally does over the course of the year. So then, of course, okay, he's going to be selected. How do we play him? So in the end, the discussion was that he'd only played 1 game in 56 days. So it wasn't a question of could he play. The question was if they started him, could he last the game having only played 1 game? So then, the question that was also thrown out at that time was, what if he got injured early in the first quarter, as we saw Pendles do in the Collingwood game? Does it suck the energy out of the group? Because he's such a, loved figure in the group. So in the end, it was okay. And Lachie, to his credit, was 100%. He didn't care. He just wanted to be in the team. He didn't care whether he started. He didn't care. He just wanted to be in the team. So anyway, 5 minutes before, let's have a think about who we can put him in for. So we start this third quarter and Lachie's out there, and it was like watching a 17-year-old kid in his first game. He was chasing fly sodas. He was that excited, mate. Wherever the footy went, he was chasing it. I had a genuine fear that he was going to blow up 2 minutes into the game. Then he kicks the goal, mate, and he's away. So the moment of bringing him in, to answer your question, my thought was sitting down was Lachie's going to explode in this game and it's just going to open up the game.
Yep.
And I'm not sure if that's what I was hoping for or that's what would happen. It's a bit of both. You hope, which is what happened. And then everybody chimed in and away we went. So the rest is history.
So the way that he was handled, the way that it worked out was pretty much.
It was meticulous, mate.
It was perfect, wasn't it?
Yep. It was meticulous, and full credit to all the coaches and Fags who were strong on this is how it's going to go. It was meticulous.
Was there much doubt at all
that he would injure himself, mate? No,
what was going to happen with him with in Lachie? Terms of –
none. I think that, we've all seen players go into finals that are injured. Fags and the other coaches were all clear on if there's a risk, we're not picking him. And through the medical people, the high-performance people, they were crystal clear that he was fine, and he was fine. And the way he trained, there was no indicator that, he wasn't hiding anything. He was going flat out. It wasn't like he was just trying to get through. Everyone's going, wowee, you cannot not pick him. So he made it. There was no way you could leave him out.
Obviously, Fags went through a lot of pressure when all the Hawthorn stuff came out with that saga. You obviously would have spent a lot of time with him during that.
Yep.
Clearly everything come through that he hadn't done a thing wrong.
Yep.
And I'm sure you knew he wouldn't have done a thing wrong with who he is. How did that affect him? And was there the silver lining, or was there something positive that could have come out or did come out of having to go through that?
It was a massive impact on him. Huge. Something that, so he prides himself on being a good person, which he is. If I died tomorrow and had, my daughters were 3 young daughters and I could leave them, you said, who can you leave your kids with? Because you have to. He'd be my first pick. Wouldn't even be a question. He'd be my first pick. So he is everything you see, because a lot of people ask me about Fags. Is he a great bloke? Is he that nice? He is all of that and more. And so he was damaged badly by the attack on him as a person for something that he hadn't done. And, yeah, he became a recluse. He shied away from people, and he's a friendly person. He'll stop and have a chat with you. I'll share this story just for a moment. So go back to the first, not the Collingwood game, second grand final that they're winning. We've gone out for a walk. We're heading back towards the Pullman, which is across the MCG. There's a young fella having a kick of the footy with his dad on the park that's just there. I said to Fags, oh, look at this kid just enjoying the footy. So I'm going to go over and have a kick with him. Over goes Chris Fagan, who's about to coach in the grand final that afternoon, mate. And his dad sees him coming, and you can see him going, Chris Fagan. I've seen people takes their breath away. Comes over the young fella and says, you want to have a kick? He's having a kick, mate, with a 10-year-old kid on the park next to the Pullman before the ground. He doesn't have to do it, but he's gone over and just given this kid a bit of love. And one day that kid will shield that story for the rest of his life. Actually got it on my camera. I got some on my phone. Got some footage of it. Never shared it with anyone. We get back, but he'll stop and talk to people down the street. He says hello to everyone. He is a legit gentleman and great guy. That's all being attacked by this report with no method to defend himself. So for 2 years, he can't come out at any stage and say, I didn't do that. So the media, early days, run with the story that him and Clarko should be sacked as coaches. It's a disgrace. And it just went on like that for maybe about 15 months. And then finally the rhetoric changed, and then, okay, he's cleared. It didn't happen. But what happens with that at the end when you get cleared? There's still people that go, Hawthorn had to pay him off. Maybe they did something wrong, or this had to happen. So then maybe there's something. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing in it. So it hurt him badly through that period, and it was wearing on him, very wearing. And, I think it was a tough grind for him to get through. We saw Alistair Clarkson took the season off. So that was the grind on Clarko. And he was no different. It was grinding on him. So to his credit, he was able to survive it. It was a battle, though.
There's some parallels there with the story with you and Magic Johnson.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that at length. We had some conversations. Mine didn't drag out for, I know for that 3 or 4 months how horrendous it was for me. And we talked about those things, but he had to put up with it for 2 years. It was a credit to him that he was resilient enough to stay through that period.
How long are you going to stay with Brisbane?
Well, it's as long as they want me, I guess. That's a good question, mate. I don't know. As long as Fags and Danny Daly and the boys say, Sam, the boss, say we like you being here and you're still contributing, then we'll keep going. So,
what do you enjoy most about doing that sort of work with someone like Fags?
You know what? I like the challenge. I really like his sense of, so Fags is, if we just talk about him individually first, his company, his humour, I really enjoy his energy and being around him, and hopefully giving him some help. Danny Daly's a great guy. I really enjoy him. And the coaches, they're all of the coaches, mate, they've got an unbelievable coaching group. Lloydie, Brucey, Dale Morris, and then you got Scotty Borlays and Lloydie, Benny Hudson. They're all great guys. So I really enjoy that group. But the players, they're a unique group. And there is a brotherhood in amongst it that you're a part of, and they're all friends, and there's a genuine love for each other in that club that the club has created. So I really enjoy turning up, and they're genuinely happy to see you, have a laugh and get on with their business. So it's the environment that draws you in. Been a part of that.
So you still be there for a while?
Looks like it. Well, I don't know. What's up to Fags?
Well, he's going to be there for a while, isn't he?
Well, I would hope so, mate. I keep saying to him, it was funny because he thought after the first year when he won it, we talked about this because, again, he came through a different pathway into coaching. And, there was a genuine fear at times whether he felt like did he belong as a coach? Was he good enough? And a lot of people questioned that. There were some journos over the journey that, I remember one journo saying that this was not last season, the season before, going into the final or midway through the year, they need to get rid of Chris Fagan and appoint Chris Scott as the coach. And because they can't win it with Chris Fagan, I go, what a dickhead. With no knowledge, of course. So he might have coached a assistant coach for a half a season. But I know that guys have to be controversial and stuff like that, but it was really personal. And then, that if you're watching that, then you start to go, there's an element of doubt there. And then when he wins, when we're talking about, eventually you're going to win one, mate. I've no doubt, because he's such a good coach who's going to win one. So the problem will be after you win it, mate, you'll get greedy and you'll want another one. I don't know, maybe after the first one I'll have had enough, and I don't sense that now, mate. I sense he's circling, mate. He's a piranha in the water with some blood now. He wants more. And but I also think the one thing I admire about him, along with many things, is that he has always said when he feels like he can't do it anymore or he's not getting enough out of the playing group, he'll walk away. He's not going to be one of those coaches that says, how long do I hold on for? How do I get another gig? He'll walk. He'll go. And he'll be so highly sought after in so many different roles. He can fill so many roles that I don't think he'll be lost to footy. I'd hate to see him be lost because he's just got too much to offer. So if he stays, I'll stay as long as he stays and as long as he wants me to stay.
If he's a piranha in the water, he's got another piranha swimming alongside him, obviously with plenty of experience that's helping out.
Yeah, well, I'm swimming a fair way back, mate. He's doing all the work. I'm the small, everyone's a piece in this puzzle. I'm one of the small bits on the corner there. There's a lot of other guys that are bigger pieces. I'm just in the right place at the right time.
Well, I think you're very humble about that, SMYTH. It has been an absolute pleasure. I love the fact of what you've achieved in your basketball career, but how you use that now to create so much joy and success for so many other people, like everyone involved in Brisbane, Glenelg Football Club and so forth.
My mate Reeva. Wasn't it great to see you, mate? Isn't he? Had a great 3 years. So
So I look at it and go, mate, I think it's absolutely brilliant that you are putting in so much to continue your legacy, because at 67, there's still a lot more chapters in the book to write, I think.
You might be right, mate. Look, it's a privilege, mate. I'm lucky. Honestly, it's a privilege to still be involved in high-level sport and still be able to contribute some way. So I see myself as lucky.
Still the best comb over in the history of sport too.
It's easy for you to say, mate. You can just make that stuff work, mate. I've gone sharp, slick, mate. I've got the slick look.
Phil SMYTH, mate, thank you so
Pleasure,
much.
Sodas.
I love your generosity, and I just want to keep watching you do great things with whoever you're working with.
Well, it's funny you should ask, mate. In going, I know you want to ask me about the highlight of this grand final. Sitting in the coach's box and watching Soda walk past and give me a wave. I thought that was a special moment. High-profile bloke like yourself give me a wave, mate, in the coach's box.
I love seeing that you had the chance to smile because you were, 47 points up at the end.
It was good timing.
Congratulations, SMYTH. Thank you.
Good on you, mate.
Well, thanks so much for listening. And if you love what you've heard, you can subscribe to the Soda Room podcast. You can write a review if you like and share the show with your friends. And just before we go, a big thank you to the team at Wayville Hyundai. The new Santa Fe is ready to go. Make sure you go and give it a look. It's the winner of the Drive Car of the Year for 2025. It's got this great bold look on the outside, beautifully finished interior, plenty of space with 7 seats for the whole family. And with Black Friday on, Wayville Hyundai is offering 7 years servicing and 7 years warranty on all new Santa Fe's. How good is that? So go and visit the team at Wayville Hyundai. It's opposite the showgrounds in Adelaide, driven by Australian Motors. T's and C's apply.